Welcome to the BobbleOn podcast,
where we're committed to providing practical advice and strategies to increase your revenue, unify your team, and create accountability throughout your organization.
Let's go. Good episode today. I'm excited to talk about it. Last week we talked a lot about when you hire the BobbleOn system for your agency, here's what life looks like after. And here's some success stories and here's how it's been implemented. And today we're going to talk about a little bit of the opposite, right? And we're going to be talking a little bit about what some of our clients were experiencing and before they hired us, and what some of our people who are talking to us who aren't necessarily ready to hire BobbleOn, like what they're feeling right now and what they're going through.
Yeah, and just a quick thing. Thank you for a lot of you for reaching out this past week. We asked you to do so if you have any questions about the workshop and implementing the BobbleOn system and putting you in touch with happy clients that can talk about their experience, not just hear it from us, is really helpful. So absolutely. Thanks for following through, crew. You might come up with like short little nuggets of like one-liners that we're going to test.
You are on fire so far.
We're going to test one-liners throughout this. And then when people go, like really excited about it, we know we caught it something good.
Awesome. This potty's going.
Moving.
Personal best. What do you got?
Personal best. This past week was the first time that Parker found his laugh. He's been a super smiley, happy baby from day one, but he located and exhibited laughter, which is really cool. And Sadie and I were both there when it happened. And so he laughed, we laughed, he laughed, we laughed. And it was just this like ongoing, roller coaster of just louder laughter, more intense laughter. And then we just ended up in tears. We were just laughing so hard. So it was a pretty cool moment. And, it's not like first words, but it's definitely cool because he like found it and he was like, wow, that's so cool. Like I can make that sound now and I'm laughing, and it was neat.
That's cool. What, do you know what triggered it?
He's for like a few weeks now, when we say the sound, when we make the sound, ooh, he just replies and goes, ooh. And so we did that, and then he said, ooh, and like just started laughing right afterwards. So it just flowed right into it. I think he was just like excited, and I don't know, it was neat. It was neat.
That's cool.
It was really cool.
I like that. Well, were you guys at home?
Yeah. We were just on the couch.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was funny because every time we laughed, it caused him to laugh and back and forth until everyone was just crying, except him. Then he cried later because he was hungry, but it was a different type of cry.
Yeah. Has he laughed again since?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So yeah.
I'll show you the video later.
Nice.
It's from yesterday.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I want to see the video with you doing the ooze.
I have it with Sadie doing the ooze. Second best.
Second best. Cool, man.
What about your personal?
Personal best. We took a couple days last week. Went to Florida to see my dad, my sisters, and whatnot. And we've never stayed in a hotel before with Emma and Mason. We've always done Airbnbs. We've done VRBOs and HomeAways and etc. And this was the first experience with a hotel. And my personal best is actually started out as a personal worst, where Mason, we were walking to the lobby to go out, and he saw some M&Ms. And he was like, hey, if we're good today, can we get those on the way back? And we turned around and we said, those M&Ms? He said, yeah. And then when we were walking over there to go look at it, Emma lost her shoe. So we bend over to go put on Emma's shoe, and Mason just turns around and pulls the fire alarm. Like literally, I don't know, how, he just turned around and saw something, pulled it, and it happened to be the fire alarm.
Jeez.
And it was in a 9-story hotel. There's people with dresses everywhere because there's a wedding there that night. It's a sold out hotel. They freak out. Everybody starts running. It's like there's commotion everywhere. And Mason is screaming off the top of his lungs. He is, because it's so loud. He's like covering his ears, yelling. He knows right away he did something. The reason why I was a personal best is because of the response. The hotel crew, they couldn't have been calmer. They had 17 calls going on, everything was bouncing around, but the guy walked over, was like, are you okay? Are you okay? And he calmed him down and did everything. And then we went out, and I just felt awful, so I taught Mason, okay, we're gonna buy this guy a gift. So Mason bought him a little gift card from a beer hall down the street, and we gave it to him. the guy was so appreciative that every single time Mason walked by the rest of the weekend, he was like, "Hey Mason, how's it going?" And Mason just felt like he was like king. He was just like walking. So it was like the personal bestest for me was really just seeing a response from like a customer service first organization like that. Like, my son made a mistake. But if you were at a XYZ hotel joint where they're like customer service wasn't important, they would chastise the mom and dad. They would chastise the kid, like, don't ever pull the fire alarm. This was like the polar opposite. And it just made like an awesome experience from something that really wasn't, well, it wasn't gonna go so well.
I'm surprised that they had a fire alarm at that level, dude, frankly. Like
it was like hip level for you and I.
Yeah, because Mason's what, like, I don't know, like 3-4 feet tall. He's not like
short. He's like, he's like 4 years old and nothing over it, no protective glass or anything. Like, it was literally it was a white wall. There was nothing in front of it. There was no artwork. There was not huge white wall with a big, big, big red square with a lever.
I want to pull it.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, like, listening to this story, I'm excited to try to pull that. I want to find it and pull it.
Dude, it's in the middle. It's in the middle next to the candy section for kids.
Oh, God. You probably think it's a lever you pull to get candy.
It makes no sense. And but it definitely...
I know now who's at fault. It's not Mason at all. I'm not putting any blame on him.
Mason was so upset with himself. And Emma was just like, bup, 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 bup. Emma didn't even like give a shit. Whereas Mason was like screaming with his head. It was just the differences in them. But yeah, shout out to the hotel crew at the Hilton Garden Inn in Tampa, Florida. It was awesome. They were just out of bounds, nice to him. And it really made the experience so much better. So that was cool. Learning, always learning. Speaking of failure, but yeah, so let's talk about the problem here. So the problem is something we've seen a lot before, where as entrepreneurs, as you and I are, you truly want to believe that you can solve things yourself. You truly want to believe that there's a book out there. There is an article you can read out there. There's a conference you can go to and you can just instill the model. And we're not saying not to read books or not to go to conferences or not to do that. It works. It does work. But a lot of times if you don't have a guide or you don't have a coach, you don't have someone to run stuff on a regular scheduled basis, you can lose your way. And you can go into roadblocks where you have to make a gut decision, and it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
You can't really find the true problem, and we're seeing that out there. We're seeing pain.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes for any part in life. If you only have one lens. In your relationship, it's only your eyes, and then in professional world, in sports, in any type of environment, it's only your lens. It's your perspective.
Yeah.
So if you are reading, fantastic, but you're improving your own internal lens. You're not actually getting someone else's feedback from the external. And that's why, I think that's why coaching is so powerful in every part of your life. And if anyone says, I have a coach for whatever, I'll never be like, oh, you have a coach for that part of your life? That's silly. No, it means that you want to improve that part of your life.
Agreed.
And having someone else look in and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing, doesn't mean you have to act on it. It just means, oh, all right, I get a different vantage point, a different perspective.
I forget who said it, but there's a book out there to emphasize your point as well, where he talked about how human beings is a strange species in general because you are literally the exact polar center of your universe, like to your own point, right? You'll never be out of center from your own vision. And a coach, as you just said, is literally, as it doesn't have your vision whatsoever, actually doesn't want to, really only kind of wants to kind of hear what's going on outside of you. And that's really how you can, we think, avoid this problem or this failure. These couple points there are 4 to 5 points we're going to bring up today. We just keep hearing over and over and over and over and over. And we want to talk about how to avoid short-term failures. And it really is getting that feedback system. We believe it's coaching, but any kind of outside support, outside of your own vision, as you said.
Yeah, and the BobbleOn system is a specific system. So you call us coaches, call us implementers, call us facilitators, call us trainers, so it doesn't really matter what you call us. It's implementing a system that helps you operate more efficiently, increases revenue, enhances accountability. It's a system that works, but it's a system like anything else. So if you have any other system, if there's another coach out there, if there's a facilitator that comes in and teaches you a different way, we're going to applaud that because you're investing in your business, someone else to come in and help. And give you a different perspective, and so obviously there's BobbleOn. We believe in it thoroughly, but the most important thing to take away from this is if you're not investing in coaching, you should start tomorrow.
Yeah, and this isn't your partner, by the way. This is where I know I failed. This isn't your partner, your spouse, your dad, your mom, your sister, your brother. This is someone who is outside of rooting for you personally, right? Is rooting for the company, and that's where we're really going.
I think too, I mean, one of the things that we talk about being, this is a little side, we'll come right back to the failures, but we talk about being in a bubble sometimes in our world, and the best way to get out of that bubble and understand perspective is to travel, and to just travel and see different people living in different environments. And we don't, as agency owners, we don't have the luxury. I mean, you and I do, but most agency owners don't have the luxury to actually travel and see different agencies.
We're a bunch of bubble boys like Seinfeld.
We're bubble boys. Yes, we're agency bubble boys. And
Awesome.
the great thing is there's Facebook groups like IAOA. There's Facebook groups out there, Soup. There's a lot of other groups on digital format that allows us to access people. But to see inside the agency is a totally different operation.
You're so right. And just spend a little bit of time on those groups. I love an aside. Let's go. Like when those groups are so valuable for community and so valuable for building relationships. And if you're in a different area, having coffees and developing relationships. And hey, what do you think about this carrier? Hey, where do you think about this market? But where they fail so often is when someone's like, I'm thinking of paying this CSR X. Or, hey, what's a good commission structure that works in your agency? Because then you get 7,000 different comments, all geared towards your own lens. And you and I cringe when we read those posts because we're like, just set up a phone call.
Yeah.
Just talk a little bit deeper because there's always like 7 layers there.
So much context that's not explained.
Oh my God.
And then everyone gets into an argument because it's misinterpreting the question.
Yeah. And everyone's like, oh, don't do that. That could never work. And the person's like, it is working. We're all working.
I think that those, just to your point, those groups are awesome, and we applaud it, and we recommend more people join. If you're not already a member of IAOA, just join if you're an agency owner. But the challenge is that there's a lot of Band-Aids.
Yes.
There's a lot of Band-Aids through these conversations, and there's a lot of idea generation and sharing what wins and failures, what's working, what's not working, which is great. It's so much better than not having that. But it's never really getting to the root. And that's what you just touched on.
Yeah.
Like there's a root here that's much bigger than the outcome that people are asking questions
Amen.
about.
We're talking about community versus coaching. I think community you need no matter what. It's coaching is like how do the 1%ers get to be the tippity top? Well, they typically have a lot of coaching, a lot of coaching. They also have like a pretty tight community, but they don't. One doesn't replace the other. Just because you have a coach doesn't mean you don't need a community.
Right.
And we believe in the community, and the community is why we entered into coaching.
Right.
So it actually makes a lot of sense.
It blows my mind that there aren't more coaches in our space. There's 40,000 agencies, hundreds of thousands of employees in the P&C world, and there's a handful of coaches.
And there's only one coaching system.
There's a handful of coaches, you and me, and that's it.
Yeah, I have small hands.
No, there's really good coaches, and we know who they
yeah.
are. But there's really good coaches out there. It's just the volume isn't there.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people out there saying, I'm willing to invest in the community.
Yeah.
In much deeper, much more foundational element.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. One of the things about the failures we see is exactly what we're talking about. We believe that there is a huge need for a lot of agencies out there for lead generation. Lead gen is a problem with some agencies, and maybe a good percentage, whatever it might be. Someone to help you with lead gen is extraordinarily different than someone to help you with coaching. It's not like you only need one or the other. Definitely not saying that. Not at all. I think the BobbleOn system is not going to teach you to go out there on day one and give you 7,000 leads in the first day. No, that comes, but not day one. You just can't invest in one and not the other. You can't say to yourself, we're not growing by as much as I want to. I'm just going to turn on a lead generation software and that will solve everything. It ends in failure.
Yeah, very much so. We see it. And the two things that we see the most common out of the lead gen faucet, per se, is that one, you get a lot of leads immediately. The quality isn't there, so your conversion rate's not there. Or it's not fitting your niche, so that your service team is saying, hey, one, I don't have the capacity to service these clients because it's not what I'm used to. Or I don't have the capacity to service these clients because we're not ready for this.
Yeah.
We don't have the onboarding capabilities. So the failure of the lead gen component is that we believe that lead gen is super important. It's the top of the funnel. You can have the best operating system in the world, the most amazing people, and if you don't have leads, you don't have a business that's growing. But if you don't have already a great team and an awesome structure and a really good, well-sound, running, oiled machine, it doesn't. You don't want leads. You can't handle it. It's going to hurt the problems you're already facing. It's going to bring it out and really magnify it.
You're so right, and that point is so valuable. You guys need to turn that back and listen again, because what Matt's saying here is, as entrepreneurs, we're all guilty of this. You go to a conference or you read about something online and you're like, this will help. You turn on that idea and you run with that, and you go back to your team and say, great news. We got tons of leads coming in. Here's where they're from. We have this funnel, And what is your team here? Oh, great. Like, Zach, thanks. You went to some conference, you got convinced by someone, and now we got this new thing coming in. You never even asked me if this was like, I want to do this, and now I got this going on. It's causing a ton of confusion because we're not communicating appropriately with our teams. Whereas the opposite way works a lot. A coach would probably tell you to like try to get solutions from everybody else but yourself first. And then you kind of layer it on after. And then this lead gen source, we recommend lead gen sourcing. We think it's a great idea. We teach referral partner generation, but it's not for everyone. You could, there's a lot, we won't name names, but we always refer other people who do this very well. We think it's a good solve. It just can't be without coaching.
Yeah, and the first question is, can we handle lead gen?
Yeah.
And then obviously the second being, like, if we can handle it, what kind of lead gen do we want? These are the questions that a coach pushes back on you and asks. Are you capable of handling the leads that you want to come in the door? Yeah, don't even focus on the ROI. Let's just assume the ROI is there, but can you handle it?
Yep, you're absolutely right. Another failure we see in the industry is the hiring aspect. Is that when you try to solve things yourself, when you go off on your own and you really you think about it, you maybe hire just a producer, maybe hire just a CSR. And it's almost the same core problem that we just went over with lead gen. It just seems like a good idea because it's your idea. And you're thinking to yourself, I don't have capacity. We're gonna, you know what, Debbie, you come over to the sales department. Or, Chuck, you go over to service and we'll figure it out. Or I'll just bring in someone from Allstate or Liberty Mutual. They seem like a great problem. What happens there?
Yeah, it fails. I mean, it's typically not a good fit, or it could be the wrong hire at the wrong time. And what we see a ton of the time to that point is that just because there's pain doesn't mean that you solve that pain with a person in that role that you think should be doing the task that they're doing. You're setting that person up for failure a lot of the time because it's not really a real role. It's just like, there's pain over here that people don't want to be dealing with. Let's just go fill it. A lot of the time you're filling it with the wrong person because you're running and you're sprinting to get it done. It's really, really tough, and it's so much more expensive to back out of a bad hire. And a lot of the times, a lot of people see the pain themselves as the business owner. They're the one just holding way too much accountability, and they just say, I can't do this anymore, I gotta hire for it. Or they hear from someone on their team, I'm feeling a lot of pain, I'm feeling a lot of pain, and you hire for their sake. Person's set up for failure, and that might not even be a role that should be in your org chart. So it's common, and it's super expensive. Way more expensive than turning on a faucet of lead gen and then turning it back on 3 months later, turning it back off 3 months later.
Bad relationships typically are in all forms of life, right? But to your point, a coach might look at this and say, hey, are we feeling this way because of market conditions? Like, let's take one step back. You and I hear this all the time. Right now, in the BobbleOn workshops that we're conducting, it's year end. And for anybody focused on real estate or anyone focused on, referrals from small businesses and whatever, it might slow down a little bit. It just might, because people are focused on the holidays. People are focused on year-end closing, trying to hit their goals, setting new goals for next year. Anything of that nature. They might be down some employees because they're on vacation. Your leads start to dip. And then you might solve it with a quick short-term solve. Well, there's no problem. It's just market conditions. So a coach can help you see beyond your own lens, to your point earlier, and say, what's the problem we're solving here with this person?
Yeah,
Do we
good
need
point.
them?
Good
Yeah.
point. I think you just alluded to the fact that good coaches build roadmaps with their clients. Don't just solve problems with immediate band-aids. They say, all right, what's the penicillin that we need to find for long term? You like
I'm
that?
allergic to penicillin.
You're allergic? Amoxicillin?
It's a cyllin.
General anesthesia? I don't know. But what people are looking at, I don't know, I lost the train of thought. Could good coaches help their clients build roadmaps? So Tiger Woods' coach is not just saying, hey, change this tweak in your backswing. You're going to be all set tomorrow. You're going to hit that 7-iron perfect. He's saying, okay, we want to be shooting X in 3 months, 6 months from now. What do we need to be doing now to get there? And the same thing when staffing occurs. You might think, oh, we got to put out this fire, this pain point by hiring someone and throwing in this job, creating this new job for this new role, when it could just be looking at your current people and say, what tasks are they doing?
Oh, dude, golf is such an excellent example.
And it probably gets me in the mood too.
It's such an excellent example. I mean, think of the last bad round you played. Can you imagine just going and buying new irons after?
Oh,
seriously.
No, no, good point.
I mean, that's exactly what agency owners are doing. They're shooting a higher round than they expect, and they're just going out and being like, all right, let's just go to the sporting goods store and let's just buy some new TaylorMades. I've seen the ads for them. The TaylorMades, Rory hits them a gazillion miles. They have a speed pocket, you know, and they're just buying these $800 to $1,200 to $1,400 irons, and then they might have a decent round next round. The conditions might be better. It might be a perfect summer day. They might just be in a good mood.
Yeah.
Or they might just cheat.
Yeah.
And then they get a little bit of a better round.
Yeah.
And then they're just, what do they say? It's because of the irons.
Yep.
Because of the irons.
Yep.
It never is.
Yeah.
The irons don't matter.
Yeah.
Do you see Henrik Stenson just broke his 3-wood after like 10 or 12 years of the same 3-wood? He just got a brand new 3-wood for the first time.
In that long?
And he has coaches.
Yeah.
The 3-wood literally caved in. And he hit the ball and it actually caved in.
That's the way you want it to
He actually
happen.
had to buy a new 3-wood.
Wow.
Can you imagine if more golfers did that? Probably be some better scores out there.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
it's not that.
Well, yeah. Anyone at the upper echelon of their game in any part of life is working with a coach. You cannot show me one person that's in the elite class in their industry or their profession that doesn't have a coach. It doesn't have someone that's saying, hey, we got to get back on track. We're off track. Or, hey, what were your goals this year? Are we going to hit them? You know, you need somebody like that in your life. And
Totally.
yeah,
I totally agree. So yeah, we have two other kind of failures that we're going to touch on that we're seeing a lot. One is when we are having problems, we're making someone like a jack of all trades, as a for instance. And I know agency owners and managers and leaders who are listening out there, you know this problem I'm talking about right now, where you got a small project that you don't feel like needs a new person. You don't really check anybody, and you're like, you know what? Joe just seems to, whenever I give him something, Joe just gets it done. So, Joe, hey, do you mind just kind of filling in a little bit right now and doing X, Y, Z? That always ends up in failure.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have Joe help out here or there, but avoid the jack of all trades failure.
Yeah.
We see it often.
Yeah, there's 3 to 5 key responsibilities that each person in your agency should be responsible for, should be accountable for. And if you find yourself giving someone 6, 7, 8, 9, it should be a red flag immediately. Because there's really only 3 or 4 things that you can do excellent every single day, all day. And if you're asked to do 6, 7, 8, 9 things, just you're set up for failure.
Agreed. And the last one, it's just so apparent right now. We're finding a lot of leaders and managers who do not invest in coaching. It ends up just falling on them. And they end up working a ton of hours. And this is the worst time of year to feel like you have to work a ton of hours. We're not saying that you should be taking a break right now. A lot of people love it. But do you actually like working a ton of hours, or do you just have to work a ton of hours? There's a really big difference. You know, Seth Zaremba and I had a really good conversation. I know you've chatted with him many times. And there's a guy who loves to work a ton of hours because he actually is working towards a passion project and wants to get it to the finish line and wants to do certain things. And there are thousands of examples in the industry about that. That is not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is someone who feels like they have to work a ton of hours just because they have nobody else to help them because it's an idea and they just need to do it.
Yeah, you feel like you're trapped. You feel like the business is running you and you're not in the driver's seat. And if you ever feel like there's no end in sight and you're working a ton of hours in the business, that should be a quick, major red flag to go hire a coach. Even if it's the wrong coach. Take a step to invest in yourself and your business and find out it's the wrong coach.
Yeah, have a conversation.
Have a conversation with somebody. Ask other successful people, what do you do? Who do you work with? Who evaluates your business?
Yeah.
And helps you look from the outside looking in. If you feel that way, because we felt that way in the past.
Mm-hmm.
We've known a lot of our clients have felt that way in the past, which is why they hired us.
Mm-hmm.
They said, I'm working a ton of hours and there's no end in sight. I don't know how to get myself out of this rat race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dead on. I think working a ton of hours towards a goal or a passion or a project, all in. I love it. Working a ton of hours, 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 that's where the red flag comes up. It's like, like you said, the end in sight is so important to define. Like, do we have a goal we're working towards, or are we just constantly building a dam every single day?
And if you're a business owner, if you're a leader entrepreneur, and you're working, I mean, this past year, we probably both worked 80-hour weeks, no question, but we were working on strategy, vision, culture, key
Diapers.
relationships.
Parker's diapers.
Diapers, fire alarm management. No, we were doing things that were gonna help the company move forward.
Totally.
And we were helping invest in other entrepreneurs, which is a huge fulfillment factor. It did not feel like 80 hours. 80 hours in 2014 felt like 200 hours.
Yeah, it felt awful.
And that's I'm sure people can relate to that.
Yeah.
80 hours feels like 200 because you're quoting, you're servicing, you're selling, you're managing a little, taking out the trash and everything in between. Failure.
Failure sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to go through it, right? And that's the beauty of it. Is you're going to continue to fail with coaching. That's going to happen. But the failures are going to be because of chances, not because of exhaustion, and not because of that. And that's what we're really trying to avoid. So overall, this message is super clear. Invest in coaching. Do it in all forms of life that you can financially afford, that is right for you. It leads to a better quality of life. It's one of the reasons we became coaches is because we really believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
We believe in really this way of helping others. We use it for everything. Matt and I, just about every form of life, really try to do it. And we're just honored to be able to serve the community and do the same thing for everybody else.
Amen. BobbleOn.
Bobble.
Bobble gobble.
BobbleOn!